Realized I missed my Instagram one. Well, we're not live on Instagram tonight. Hi, Dr. Esther.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How the heck are you?
I am great.
You don't look like Dr. Tiffany.
No, I don't because
It's
I'm not her.
it's the accent.
Yes, I guess it is. I guess it is. Yep.
And it's funny because this is actually the second time that we've done a live stream together, I
Uh,
believe,
yes,
right?
it is. Yes, it is.
And we were just together about a week and a half ago at the Unicity convention. That was an amazing experience.
That was, for me, it was my first convention. It was the first event outside of, the method.
Mhm.
So this was, the fun event, where I wasn't sitting taking notes all seriously, and but it was just amazing. The energy, meeting all the people that I did, of course, meeting you, and you're always teaching me something new all the time. So yeah, I know. Yeah.
I feel like I learned from you. If you're learning from me, times are rough.
No, I learned from you, and actually today I was just relating everything that you taught me to one of my team members, and they they thought it was golden. So
Well,
thank you.
I'm
Thank you.
glad I was able to help you.
Yeah.
So, folks, for everybody who's listening in right now, if you're just joining into our live stream, first off, hi, everybody. Thank you. If you've been invited to this, stick around for about an hour or so. We're going to talk about some really cool stuff. Dr. Esther is going to explain a really big problem, and we're going to talk about a solution to that really big problem in this live stream. If you've been invited to it, stick around. This might be that 1 hour that kind of changes the direction of your life. We've heard that a lot. People come in, they watch this, and 60 minutes later they leave kind of a new person, like, hey, I've got an idea as to how to fix the problems that I'm dealing with my health. So stick around. If you are one of the people who is on this system and you're just absolutely like out of your mind, like, hey, this stuff is amazing, and you want to share it, this is the perfect time to share it. So that little @ symbol on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, type that little @ symbol and then start typing somebody's name, the person you want to share it with, and eventually it'll populate their name, hit enter, voila. The next time they log into Facebook, they'll see it. We're also live on YouTube. We're also live on Rumble. We're also live. We're kind of live everywhere. So if you have somebody that's like, I don't do Facebook, well, we're live on YouTube, Rumble. Heck, we're live on Twitch. We're on all of them. D Live. We're kind of everywhere except for Instagram. I missed Instagram today, and I'm kind of mad at that, but I'll live. Anyway, my name is Jim, and I used to be a type 2 diabetic. And I love saying that I used to be a type 2 diabetic because I did. I used to be one. I have reversed type 2 diabetes. I'm in remission from it. I don't take any medications anymore. That's because my endocrinologist told me I don't have to. She said, you've reversed it. I had a 12.2% A1C. My most recent one about 3 weeks ago was a 5.1% A1C. I've been unmedicated for about 2.5 years. I'm coming up on 3 years of being completely unmedicated. This system has saved my life. I told my mother-in-law about it. She reversed type 2 diabetes as well. I told my mother about it. She reversed type 2 diabetes on it. My wife reversed pre-diabetes on it. And we've seen no fewer than 100 people that I've told about it reverse type 2 diabetes on it. And along the way, I met the wonderful Dr. Tiffany Marie, who I typically co-host with. And she's out tonight, so she can't be with us, but she has asked Dr. Esther, who I'm quite fond of as well, to kind of fill in to help us explain with this. And so, Dr. Esther, with that being said, why don't you introduce yourself to this audience? Tell them who you are. And I love your story. I can't wait to hear it again.
So my name is Dr. Esther. I am a board certified family medicine physician. I practice out of Houston. I practice in a direct primary care model. Uh, wow, how did I come across this? At the beginning of this year, just like everybody else, I made all these resolutions, but with in the back of my mind, especially when it came to the health resolutions, in the back of my mind, I knew it was just going to be another failed year. And of course, I was going to find something else to blame. Age, perimenopause, that's transition that women dread, and then, hormones. not sleeping well, the kids, blame everyone, but and of course, even think of myself as maybe being lazy. And for me, what I was really struggling with was knowing that I didn't feel right. My labs didn't quite show that a lot was off. And so I was in the same situation that most of my patients are. And I took the advice that I gave my patients: diet, I just said lifestyle, diet, exercise, and sleep well. And I did all that. And it just wasn't working. And over the years, I've been doing that. Sometimes it works, and you're excited, but then it's something non-sustainable, so you get back to the bad habits, and you get even more frustrated. And usually when it failed, it's like there was no failing forward, it's always failing like really backwards. Yeah, there's no failing forward when it comes to this, it's always backwards. And so every time you're starting from farther back to try and get to where you want to be, and really never getting there, it seemed like it was unattainable. And now I was commiserating with my patients because I was feeling that they're going through the same things, and so the advice I'm giving them is not working because I'm trying to do it to a T. So now it's not my patient's fault. So whose fault is it? What are we not doing right? And then on Martin Luther King Day, I just happened to join this live, another Facebook live thing, and I had someone talking about me because they were talking about everything that was wrong with me. And it was one of those things. It was January, and I said, well, maybe this is the answer I've been looking for. So, hey, jump 2 feet in and just see what happens. But I was getting into it in a way maybe to also prove that, yeah, this is just another gimmick. It doesn't work. And so I'm going to do it. They said give it 90 days to at least 6 months. I was going to do it for 6 months and come back and say it doesn't work. Well, here I am saying it works. So, the rest is history, because my life changed right from that, from day one, January 29th, when I started taking it. The amount of energy I felt, that Energizer Bunny kind of energy, that's what I felt. And sleeping better. And it was just about 4 weeks before people started noticing. And of course, the first people to notice were my patients, because they're like, what are you doing? Your skin looks clearer. You've lost some weight. And that's when I actually now took a look and realized, yes, something has changed. When you're looking at the same face every time in the mirror, you don't notice those subtle changes. But it took looking at a picture from before and now what my face looked like to realize that there was a big difference. And then, of course, I realized, well, I wear scrubs most of the days, so you don't really realize that you're losing weight because, it's elastic. So, but then now I started paying attention and realized that something was changing. And it's only gotten better. Not just what you see on the outside. What I love about this is that it changes the inside and you glow on the outside. So what you see on the outside is really a reflection of all the good stuff that's happening on the inside. And that stuff that goes beyond just looks, it goes to our health. It goes to those numbers that we don't like turning red whenever you go to the doctors. It goes to how you feel, because sometimes the look on the outside looks good, but you feel like crap on the inside. No, this is what you see on the outside is really what is going on the inside. And that to me is just a winning plan. So,
I love that.
yeah.
I love every bit of that. And you say glowing, and quite honestly, you glow. And
Thank you.
I've had the good fortune of being around you in person now, and I observed that. Of course, we were in the Bahamas, but
Hey, yeah.
everybody glows in the Bahamas.
Anyone's got to glow when you're out on the islands.
Right, but nonetheless, you do have a glow about you, and I love that.
Thank you, Jim.
There's a happiness, and I love that. So
it's funny that you mentioned the happiness. The other day, a friend of mine, about a month ago, I hosted dinner in our house, and one of the things that my friends mentioned is that she said, "There's a lighter spirit around you now," and that was so big that you don't realize people notice when you're struggling internally, even when you don't say it. And now she just mentioned that there was a lighter spirit around me. And well, she's now trying to get that lighter spirit too, because she she's now taking the
You know
project.
what's funny to that, and I don't really talk about this a whole lot because I don't know why I don't. I probably should because I think it would be helpful to a lot of people. But I really struggled with depressions, seasonal depressions, and that sort of thing. This time of year would typically be devastating to me. I struggled, and as much as I love the holidays, it was like I don't know what it was. Uh, I didn't really ever care about the finances, which drove my wife nuts. I would just put it on the credit card, like I'll figure it out later. I didn't really care about that stuff. And but I would get stuck in these ruts, and then throughout the year, I would get stuck in these ruts. And when I came across this, I was in a very dark place, very very dark place, and one that I don't talk about a whole lot because it was very dark. It was shameful thoughts even. And I don't have those anymore. And I think every now and then everybody kind of goes to those darker places. It just happens. I think
Yeah, it's
everybody
part of
does
life.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
But what I have found is I don't stay there. I'm able to come out a little bit easier. Instead of being a 12-hour day or a 24-hour day or a week or a month or something like that, it's like, that was rough. This morning sucked, and then like it's gone, or tonight sucks. I wake up tomorrow and I'm just fine.
And you're
I
fine.
come out of it a lot quicker. And then also, I think the depth of those, and I don't know, I'm just describing a deep, dark hole. The depth isn't as deep. And so there is something, and truthfully, I'm somewhat fascinated with this. And I've spent a lot of time looking at people like Dr. Cynthia Culkin, who's a psychologist who's actually explored the connection there between things like treatment resistant bipolar disorder and of course insulin resistance that you're going to be talking about, and schizophrenia. I've done a number of videos on schizophrenia and some other things that you wouldn't think were really connected, but they all are. And once you start to feel good, I've got a good friend of mine, Ro. Everybody knows Ro, right? It seems like everybody knows Ro. And Ro says the results are addicting. And once you start
Yes.
to feel good, you just want to keep doing whatever it is that makes you feel that good. You're like, man, I forgot what it's like. I feel like I'm 20 again.
No, I mean, inherently, human beings want to feel good. Nobody sets out to feel crappy or feel bad. We all want to feel good. And that's why those moments, those things that make us feel sad stand out because we want to be at baseline happy and feeling good,
Yeah.
you know. So when you find something that keeps you there more times than not, then why wouldn't you be
Mm-hmm.
addicted to it? And yet it's not just keeping you there because you're like zoned out and not aware of what's going on. No, this is keeping you there, but with a heightened awareness and a heightened alertness about what's going on around you. But yet you're still
Yeah.
happy. And yeah, so
So I see Strauss over on Twitch, inflammation in the brain, and Juniette um, saying, "Is there a connection?" And so I don't want to. I don't want to take too much because I don't. This isn't. Well, it is, but it's not. What Dr. Cynthia Calkin found was in your brain, the blood vessels have something called the blood-brain barrier. And the blood-brain barrier is there to impede the flow of toxins. Basically, our brain cavity is supposed to be a real clean space. And Dr. Esther, I'm traveling into uncharted, I'm just a dumb barbecue dude, right? So if I say something that you need to correct, feel free. But the blood-brain barrier is there to impede the flow of toxins into the brain cavity. We want that to be a real clean space. And what Dr. Cynthia Calkin found was that people who struggled with treatment-resistant bipolar disorder also had blood-brain barrier leakage or blood-brain barrier dysfunction. And she hypothesized that that was because of insulin resistance. And so she ran a test called HOMA-IR, HOMA-IR, and found that in all cases, people had insulin resistance. And so the way that she tested this was to give them metformin, which metformin and treatment-resistant bipolar disorder, and it worked. And when I did the video, people thought that I was actually advocating for metformin, which goodness, I was not advocating for metformin. People, listen to the message. The thing is, there's a connection between the gut brain, is what it really was. Um, If you want to go down a rabbit hole, look up Dr. Cynthia Culkin, and amazing work. And there really is something there. And so when I hear people say what you just said, Dr. Esther, that you feel like you're happier. And I know for a fact that I'm happier. And I see people in here all the time that come in and just say, hey, I just feel, it's the corniest thing, doctor. We feel great. We feel great. Who came up with that name?
I thought it was the cheesiest thing ever. I was like,
when I heard that, I was like,
feel great?
Dumbest name.
Who calls that?
It's so accurate. It's so fitting.
Yep, because that's what anybody asks you. I feel great. And you realize, yeah,
I kind of do.
Yeah, I feel great. It actually does.
Okay. I spent way too much time talking about that. There's not enough time. We got two guests with amazing stories. Dr. Esther, which guest should we bring up first? I usually give this to Dr. Tiff. She always decides which guest to go first.
Why don't we go with Gavin?
Gavin it is.
Let's go with Gavin.
Yeah. Gavin is up. What is up, my friend? How are you, sir?
Pretty good. Pretty
good. Now, Gavin is a little bit of a funny one because I don't really know Gavin that well. And Gavin's young. Normally we have older people on here like Dr. Tiffany. We rarely have younger people like myself and Gavin.
And myself.
And Dr. Esther.
Yeah, we all
love this because Dr. Tiffany right there, she's watching. I know that she's there, and I can hear her giggle from here. And that was my jab. So anyway, we don't normally get younger people like Gavin. There she is. There she is.
We see you, Dr. Tiff.
Anyway, Gavin, brother, I like to ask this question. You know, where were you at when you came across this system?
Yeah.
And where are you at now? Kind of tell us the story here. And while you're telling the story, I'm going to mute and turn my camera off real quick. The dogs went out. I'm going to let the dogs in, but I'm listening to the background.
You're good. Yeah. So basically, I was a senior in college when I kind of came across the system. I was just doing the college lifestyle, you know, eating out, doing all the things that college people do. And one night I was sitting in my house and the left side of my face started going numb. And I called the nurses hotline in my college. I said, you know, what is this a sign and symptom of? And she said, that's a sign of a stroke. You know, you need to find the nearest urgent care or emergency room. So, you know, me and my friends, we loaded up. We went to the emergency room. We got there. They couldn't get a good blood pressure reading. So they did it by hand, and it ended up coming back at 230/114. And so, you know, as a 22-year-old, they were like, you know, this is, you know, beyond stroke level blood pressure. Let's get you in for a CT on your head, an EKG on your heart. At this point, I was probably in a 3 extra large shirt and a 44 pant size. They got me in for a CT on my head, an EKG on my heart. You know, both of those came back fine. The doctor came in the room, you know, gave me a saline IV, prescribed me with, you know, hydrochlorothiazide, which is a diuretic medication, and, you know, diagnosed me with hypertension. And so, you know, I kind of left there feeling defeated. You know, I'm 22 years old, 21 years old, or however old I was, you know, diagnosed with hypertension. And so actually that same night I got home, I saw Michael Martin and Jimmy on live, you know, at like 1 or 2 in the morning talking about the system. And so, you know, I kept watching them over week and week and week after. And, you know, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it for 90 days. There's a 90-day money back guarantee. You know, worst thing that can happen is, you know, I get my money back. And so I started the system February the 12th of this year, and I'm down about 85 pounds now. I got off my high blood pressure medication the second month on the system.
9 months.
Yeah.
85 pounds.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I got stuck on that. Rewind about 10 seconds. You go from there. 9 months, 85 pounds. Anyway, what?
9 months, 85 pounds, got off my high blood pressure meds the second month on it. I kept waking up and, you know, I took my medicine. I kept getting kind of lightheaded, you know, and so I kept checking my pressure when I woke up. When I went to sleep, it was perfectly fine. I called the doctor. I said, hey, I think I need to come in, you know, for a visit. I got in there. He was fine. You know, it was doing good. I was already down, you know, 20, 25 pounds at that point. And he was like, whatever you're doing, keep on doing it. He took me off the blood pressure meds and, you know, I was on my way. So now I'm down about, I'm in a I went from a 44 pant size to a 36 and a 3 extra large shirt to an extra large. So I'm just keeping on.
That is amazing, brother. How do you feel?
I feel a lot better, even mentally, at our age, like social media is a big thing, just your appearance and all of that stuff, and just, your confidence and stuff like that in yourself, and the way that people are viewing you has went up. And obviously I just feel a lot better. I feel like going to work out all the time, all the things that I played football in high school all throughout high school, and then, college, and yeah, here we are.
Oh, that's too cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dr. Esther, I'll let you have a way. If you got any questions for Gavin, there's just so much here.
I mean, his story is just amazing. But, one thing I'd like to, point out is way back when young me was going through medical school and residency, finding high blood pressure in young people was not something that we did. If you did, there was something exogenous causing it. And so you were not looking for causes within, you were looking for what did they do, what did they put into their body to do this. It was really rare. Or if there was high blood pressure, maybe there was an issue with the kidney or something like that it stemmed from another disease.
Right.
But, Gavin's story is really not unique in this present day. That, yes, going all the way to a stroke may be something that is not, you don't find every day, but measuring the blood pressure of a young person, people in their teens and even younger, and finding it to be elevated is now not something to stop and say what's going on here. It's become the norm. And the worst thing is that it's there as a lifestyle issue, not because of those things that we used to look for in the past. That now the first thought is, okay, what is it about this person's lifestyle? And unfortunately, most times you can also see it in other ways. As Gavin said, he's shed a lot of weight. So at times there's the issue of weight, and which leads to, poor sleep, maybe some sleep apnea, you're not sleeping very well. And all these things lead to finding, whether it's high blood pressure or diabetes. We're seeing it in younger and younger people. But Gavin, what would you like to tell your peers? As we said, not many people your age are probably thinking they're at risk of these diseases, but what is your message to them?
Yeah, the main thing is, like, I didn't know that insulin resistance could affect, people that are my age. And, that's kind of what we're trying to spread here is, it doesn't matter what age you are, like a lot of us talk about now, they're finding non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and, elementary school kids because of the public school cafeterias, just all of that type of stuff. It's like, it can affect every age group, you know what I mean? And that's probably the main thing that I wanted to get out there.
Just a couple quick statistics. The fastest growing percentage of our population that's becoming obese is our children. And there was a study that was done that showed that it's estimated, and this is a really shocking one. It's estimated that there's a 700% increase in diabetes amongst the youth by the year 2060. A 700% increase in diabetes amongst the youth by the year 2060. And the real, I mean, if that's not bad enough, you're like, oh my goodness, what is causing that?
Right.
We're actually outpacing the projection. We're ahead of it. So it's actually worse than that right now. So what are we doing wrong? And that's where I'm excited to hear what you're going to explain here, Dr. Esther. I keep on inadvertently putting the cart in front of the horse here. But what are we doing? These are alarming. There was a child in the United Kingdom who got diagnosed with dementia at like 16.
Wow.
This is a problem. And as Gavin mentioned, fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease in children, what do we give our children? Apple juice. Apple juice is healthier than Coca-Cola. So we've been taught, right? It's not. There's an absolute direct connection between fructose and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Anyway, I'm going to shut up and let Dr. Esther do her thing. Gavin, what I want to do is shut off your camera, but I want to bring you back at the end of this for anybody that might have any questions for you.
Yeah, sounds
Are
good.
you good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'll say one more thing is that, like, I'm staying on the system because I want to prevent myself from getting those, type 2 diabetes, all the different things that could possibly happen in my future. And that's why I'm going to continue to stay on the system to prevent those things from happening to me in the future.
It makes you feel good. It's an easy
Right.
thing. It's easy.
It's so
It's
easy.
easy.
Yep.
You're not being strong-armed into doing something that you don't
Right.
like doing. It actually tastes good and it works.
Yep, exactly. If you can drink a drink, you can do it, right?
I love it, brother. Okay.
Thanks.
Dr. Esther, I'm going to load up your screen here. Before I do that, you'll want to, I just lost it.
Oh.
You'll have to reshare your screen again. And you might want to get your slideshow kind of pre-booted up, and then I will share it. So we're not sharing there we go. There it is. And I don't think you can see the screen now, or can you, Dr. Esther?
No, I can't see you guys.
Okay, but we can see you. We are here.
I'll just look into the camera and
smile.
Imagine you guys on the other side.
And I'll let you know if something goes astray, okay? But yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what are we talking about here? When we've been talking, we've talked about metabolic health, the fact that we are now seeing it in younger and younger people, and that it's going to be a major problem. As Jim said, 700% increase in the youth by the year 2060. But as of the end of 2022, we know that, that's where the statistics have, where they've evaluated that. A third of all teens have pre-diabetes. Now, if they're pre-diabetic in their teens, what this means is that most of them will go on to diabetes by the time they're in their 20s. And that, the complications that come with diabetes, it means that we'll be seeing people on dialysis younger and younger in their 40s, and not just one or two people, but actually more people. So what is metabolic health? When we talk about metabolic health, we are actually talking about the optimal function of the cell in terms of glucose metabolism, insulin, lipids, inflammation, and the whole body composition. So when we talk of metabolic health, we're really talking about it at cellular level, not just what you see on the outside, but really at the level of the cell. Then we talk about insulin resistance. I've talked about it, Jim has talked about it, and Gavin said something about it too. So what is insulin resistance? So insulin resistance is a condition where the cell fails to respond to insulin. So what happens is that every time we eat, the food that we eat gets converted to glucose or sugar. I'll use the words glucose and sugar interchangeably. So everything we eat gets converted to glucose or sugar. When that happens, the pancreas releases insulin. Insulin is a hormone that is released, and its main job when it is released is to push that glucose out of the bloodstream into the cells, mainly muscle cells. It also gets into fat cells and the liver cells, but mainly into the muscle cells. Now, I said every time we eat. So if you're eating frequently, and if you're eating foods that cause a rise in that glucose to happen more frequently, and if you're also eating foods that cause a rise in that glucose too high, then you get an equal response when it comes to insulin. So insulin is produced as fast as the glucose is going up and as high as the glucose is going, because it needs to push all that glucose out of the bloodstream so that it can maintain a normal blood sugar level. So what happens? The cells are not really bottomless pits. At some point, they're going to have too much glucose in them, and they're going to say, enough, we have no more room. And insulin is going to try and get wise and try and maybe change the way it presents the glucose to the cells into fat. And therefore, the cells now start storing fat, because insulin inherently is a fat storage hormone. But then what insulin is doing all this time is to keep trying to push the glucose out. But in this struggle that's happening, what the brain is perceiving is that insulin seems to be struggling out there. So what do you do when something is struggling? You send reinforcements. So the brain tells the pancreas, why don't you send more insulin out there so that we can push all this glucose that keeps coming into the body out into the cells? And therefore more insulin is produced. But really the problem is that the cells are not accepting this glucose that is coming in. And that is what we call insulin resistance, because the cells are resistant to the action of insulin. And therefore, what happens is that you keep getting more and more insulin developing, more and more insulin accumulating in the bloodstream. And now, when insulin is done storing glucose in all the places it can think of, which is, in the cells as fat, it stores it in your liver, fatty liver, an increase in triglycerides. It also starts storing it, packing it around your visceral organs. And that's where we start seeing that, mid weight gain, where you start getting some fat around your belly. So when all this is done, and there's no more room to store glucose anywhere, so what happens? Now you have insulin still rising because it's just trying to do its job. Hey, you sent me to push the glucose out, I'm going to keep trying to do that. But now glucose starts accumulating. And when's the first time that, most unfortunately, we're told that there's a problem? It's when that glucose starts accumulating and you get into that pre-diabetes range. But all this struggle that has been going on, when insulin has been succeeding in pushing the glucose out, most times you're just told, no, everything is fine. Although you don't feel fine, there's a struggle going on. And the body whispers. It tells you that something is going wrong way before that blood glucose actually rises to the point where the lab picks it up. And this is what we need to be listening to, not just waiting for the labs, but actually listening to all this, what the stories of the patients are telling you, because they're really telling you, I'm struggling. The battle that is going on internally is, you can't see it in the labs, but there's a struggle going on internally, and that's what we need to be addressing. So how insulin resistance develops, I talked about that, mainly that diet, the frequency of what you're eating, the consistency of what you're eating, particularly when you eat foods that don't have fiber, foods that are processed, your glucose rises so high and so fast. And what happens is that, the higher it goes, it comes down just as fast. And when that happens, you have a lot of cravings because you want to replace that glucose. So you want to reach for the next sweet thing to try and address that rapid drop. Stress, inflammation, when you don't sleep enough. These are all things that, and yesterday, on another forum, we learned even about light and how you interact with light, and whether you're eating your meals out in the light. You should, maybe look for that recording somewhere and just realize that so many things influence how our bodies interact with insulin. So the consequences of insulin resistance, just as I talked about, you have obesity, fatty liver, type 2 diabetes, dementia, PCOS. I mean, so many women, young women, teens, women in their 20s get told they have PCOS. But PCOS is really a disease of insulin resistance. It just happens to present in the ovaries. Cardiovascular disease. But then the things that, as I said, the body is whispering way before things ever turn red on that lab panel. Hypothyroidism, high blood pressure. How many times have you gone to the dentist and they tell you, your blood pressure is on the higher side, but it's okay, follow up with your primary care doctor, and you never do. But your body is beginning to tell you, I'm struggling out here. Low testosterone, this is a problem for a lot of men. I mean, the number of low T clinics that are around this country, you can tell that this is a major problem. But this is a sign of insulin resistance. When you start getting, you're told your cholesterol's on the higher side, but it's not too high for us to start any medication. No, it's high enough for you to start doing something active about it. Neuropathy. Neuropathy is actually one of the earliest signs of insulin resistance, but many times, you're just told, no, everything's fine, your sugars are okay, you know, maybe lose some weight or something like that. Then, of course, there's reflux disease, GERD. This is something that, I mean, the industry making the PPIs, omeprazole and pantoprazole and Pepcid, there's a reason why these medications are always, you know, running off the shelves because of GERD. Then, of course, we have ED, another major problem. Sarcopenia, when you start losing muscles. Some things I didn't even realize that were really connected to insulin resistance. Migraines. I mean, how many people are struggling with migraines? Arthritis, of course, stroke, fatty liver, cancer, heart disease. These are all things that we know are connected to insulin and glucose. The other aspect of getting healthy is what we call gut dysbiosis and metabolic health. When we talk about the gut, we're really talking about the microbiome, trillions and trillions of micro bacteria, fungus, parasites, viruses, all of them living harmoniously in our gut. And it's in a symbiotic relationship. You know, you do for me, I do for you. This microbiome is a living organism in itself, and it needs to be fed, because this microbiome is what really is our first line of defense. 70% of our immunity resides in the gut, in that gut microbiome. So it's really the first line of defense. Then we know that a lot of the feel-good hormones are actually produced by the microbiome in the gut. When we talk of serotonin, when we talk of GABA, these are things that are produced by that microbiome. 90% of it is produced in the gut. When this is not working properly, it contributes to making insulin resistance worse. It triggers inflammation. Inflammation causes cortisol to go up, and that makes insulin resistance even worse. So what are the things that we know are linked directly to gut dysbiosis? And when I talk about gut dysbiosis, I mean an imbalance in that microbiome, where you have an overgrowth of certain aspects of that microbiome. So autoimmune diseases, remember we said your microbiome is your first line of defense. It trains your immune system to react and react properly. Now, if that microbiome is not in the right proportions, then the training it's going to give your immune system is going to be faulty. And we know autoimmune diseases is when your body starts attacking itself. And that's part of what happens when your gut microbiome is not working properly. Mood disorders, I just said about 90% of the serotonin in your body is actually produced in the gut. Metabolic dysfunction by worsening insulin resistance. And then micronutrient absorption. Many times we are all trying to take supplements of, I need some vitamin K, I need this, I need more iron, I need all this. But the gut microbiome is very much responsible for how you're able to extract these micronutrients from food. And therefore, if that gut microbiome is not working optimally, much as you eat foods that are rich in these micronutrients, even take supplements, you're still not going to be able to absorb them in the levels that you want. Diseases that we know really dependent on the integrity of that gut microbiome: IBS, multiple sclerosis, SIBO, celiac disease, anxiety and depression, as we said, because those are controlled by the feel-good hormone serotonin, lupus, which is autoimmune, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is another autoimmune disease, chronic fatigue syndrome, asthma, which all get exacerbated by faulty gut microbiome. So what happens when these things are wrong? Remember I said when you have insulin resistance, you now have a rise in glucose and you have a rise in insulin. Insulin in itself is a fat storage hormone. It makes things grow. That's why we see things like skin tags, the darkening of the skin, because it's an overgrowth of the skin without the regeneration that's supposed to happen. You find what we call acanthosis nigricans, which is just a big word for that darkening and velvety skin in the back of the neck. Sometimes you even find it in the axillary region, in the underarms. But what also happens is that as your sugar rises, and I just learned the other day that this when the sugar is rising, that's the glucose, you find it attaching to proteins. Now, when we look for the hemoglobin A1C, which is that test that we do to look for diabetes, we're looking for the attachment of the sugar molecule to the hemoglobin, which is a protein in the blood. Now, the reason that's the one we check, it's easy to check. Now, as that is happening, other proteins are not immune to sugar attaching to them. We have sugar attaching to proteins in the eyes, causing cataracts, retinal damage, proteins within the endothelium, that's the inner lining of the blood vessel, so it becomes damaged, and therefore you have plaque formation. Sugar attaching to the proteins in collagen. And when we think of collagen, you think of skin, which is one of the largest organs in our bodies. If sugar is attaching to collagen, to proteins in the collagen, they're not intact, and we find premature aging, wrinkles, sagging skin, and all that kind of stuff. Cartilage, we find that people with elevated glucose levels, insulin resistance, tend to accelerate, move quicker to bone-on-bone arthritis, osteoarthritis. Brain tissue, that's what Jim was just talking about. The proteins that actually keep that blood-brain barrier intact. If they have sugar molecules attached to them, then they're not, they don't have the integrity to keep that barrier the way it's supposed to be. And metabolic disease, and I said accelerated aging. So where does that leave us? We have the solution, and I know Jim will go deeper into this, but what we are trying to do is, with this system, is to address these two problems. The insulin resistance with the rising glucose, and then we're also trying to address the issue of the gut dysbiosis. So we have a tea that is rich in chlorogenic acid, which helps address that first problem of insulin resistance and the sugar control. It helps reduce inflammation, weight gain, because it promotes fat burning. It improves the blood pressure, and it also has something called theobromine, which helps calm you. And maybe that's what people see, that peaceful countenance around you. So we do this fasting and fiber protocol. Remember, we talked about when you are eating frequently and eating the wrong things, that's what leads to that insulin resistance. So we know fasting is the answer. If you can give your body a break for several hours a day, not just the 8 hours when you sleep, but actually lengthen that, because there is value in fasting. And we know that once you hit a certain number of hours of fasting, you start going into fat burning. Then you get to another level, and what you get into is actually cellular cleaning, where because there isn't any glucose to deal with that's coming from outside, then the body goes into self-cleaning mode. And that's part of how, the body gets rid of damaged cells, which could end up mutating. So that's the way that we know that fasting helps in actually cancer prevention, or actually preventing cancer from proliferating, because you give the body a break from food. So it's difficult to fast when you've been used to eating or drinking something almost every hour, that you have something sugary or something that you're just putting in your mouth. It gets very difficult to do that. Now, that's what Unimate helps with. It helps deal with that willpower aspect, because again, when you have high insulin, your body is just craving, and it's forcing you to go get these things because you're almost not in control of what you're doing. So Unimate helps you with that willpower aspect, because it makes fasting very easy. And then the fiber helps keep you fuller longer, so you're not reaching for food all the time. So the balance, which is the fiber formula, we know it promotes satiety, it stabilizes your blood sugar, because once it coats all the food that you're eating, your sugar does not rise as fast as it would have without it. People who wear continuous glucose monitors can see the difference between when they eat food after they take their fiber formula, and when they don't, their sugar rises higher and faster as opposed to when they take the fiber. Because fiber, not just in balance, but fiber in any way, if you eat an apple, you don't get as high of a rise in blood sugar as if you just take the juice that comes from that apple. So having that apple, because you're taking the fiber in it too, is better. So fiber all around helps with that. And then, of course, fiber is the favorite food of the gut microbiome. So if you want to make your gut microbiome happy so that it can give you all the benefits we talked about, you're going to feed it its favorite food. And some of the things that we've seen, and you'll see from other people here, but I just wanted to point out, you get sustainable changes in a metabolically healthy body, and the body composition shows on the outside. There are pictures there. That's Coach Hoyt there. That's Corey there, and I forget who this is, but this is them several months after starting on the formula. I want you to see here. This is Corey. He lost all this weight. Now, what do we know about weight loss? When people lose weight, the next thing they need to do is go visit the plastic surgeon because there's sagging skin from all over the place. But that's Corey. This is not after a plastic surgeon's visit, but this is just after taking the Feel Great system. Because you lose fat and build muscle, you don't need to go under the knife for anything. And then because we're saying that you're reducing the glycation, that is the attachment of sugar to your protein, sugar to the proteins in your body. So even your collagen is more intact. Everything about, the proteins in your body are more intact. So you build muscle better, your skin looks better, no sagging skin. Now, this is yours truly. This was me about 4.5, 5 months after starting on the protocol. That's the same dress. A lot of weight loss. And this is, again, me now 9 months after starting on the protocol. Lean, no, have lost the fat, and pretty much, as I said, doing great and feeling great on the inside. Okay. Thank you, Jim. That's my presentation.
I love how you just, thank you. That's my presentation. You're amazing. Okay, we're done.
No, I realized I forgot to put a thank you.
No, that was amazing.
I forgot to say thank you.
And I love it. I love it. I love it. You made that very easy, and I dare I say digestible. You made it digestible for a simpleton like me.
Yeah. I'm fiber, so it makes it digestible.
You know what, Dr. Esther? You inspired me in that. We're gonna go to Ruth's testimonial here, but I'm gonna forewarn everybody here. Normally we cut off right at an hour, but Dr. Esther just kind of inspired me. I want to kind of dig into a couple of things. So I'm going to encourage you to stick around. It'll be a little bit longer than an hour. We're not going to be too long. I'm going to try and be very respectful of time. But I want to talk about a few things that Dr. Esther just really kind of, you got me thinking here, and I want to dig into some things. So with that being said, let's bring out Ruth. Ruth, how are you?
Hi, everyone.
How are you, Ruth?
I'm doing okay. My voice is a bit it's recovering.
Big game?
No.
Insulin resistance? No.
Just what the kids brought home.
It was done, kids.
Well, Ruth, I'm gonna let Dr. Esther introduce you. Why am I introducing you? I don't know yet.
Yeah. So Dr. Ruth, she's actually Dr. Ruth. Dr. Ruth there. Dr. Ruth there and I go back many years. She was my medical school classmate all the way back in Kenya. Yep. Yeah, we both found our way here into residency. Dr. Ruth is currently doing her fellowship in sleep medicine out in Iowa. She reached out to me sometime in the summer, seeing me posting every once in a while about this, as she called it, magical potion that I was taking. She wanted to know more about it and whether it could help her. And of course, I told her that it could. And now I think When did you start on this? At the end of July?
Yeah, like
Or at the
I think
beginning
by
of
the time I
August?
got my box was second week of August. So I just hit my 90 days last week.
Oh, you're a
Yep.
newbie.
And,
Yeah.
and she has a story to tell. So, yep.
Yeah, thank you.
The floor is yours, Ruth.
Yeah, thanks, Jim and Esther, for having me here. It's been a wake-up call for me when I reached out to Maria. I actually saw her in early spring, and she had some transformation, and I'm like, whatever you're taking, I want that. But for me, my wake-up call, I knew my A1C numbers were climbing up, but as all busy adults with kids being in training, most of what I was doing was just no time for exercise, and just grabbing whatever I can for meals. So I was actually doing intermittent fasting, and the most it could do was just maintain my weight and not go up that much. And so when I finally had the talk with my doctor this August, in June, she actually put in my chart pre-diabetic, and I'm like, no, you can't do that. I was arguing with her because of other reasons. I'm like, A1C is not accurate when my iron is at this level. But just being honest, as a doctor, is like we tell people to go do 1, 2, 3, and we don't have that transformation ourselves, even if we're doing it, even if we're preaching to the choir ourselves. I had
Thank you
belly
for
fat.
saying that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was like, that's why I'm in sleep medicine, because I'm the kind of doctor who wants to do prevention, meet people upstream. The ICU and everything else really frustrated me, because I'm like, this, you don't have to be here. Dr. Esther knows I was already signing up for lifestyle medicine classes, which are being offered thankfully with my training, that it can just be free for me. So I jumped on it because I really wanted to get to the root cause. I had read Jason Fang's book, and that's why I was doing the IF. But I had COVID weight, baby weight 9 years later. Just that stubborn belly fat that you can't blame your baby on anymore. The things that were happening, like skin tags, I thought were genetic. And then hair loss, even though you may not believe it, more forehead. I was like, this is stress or breastfeeding. But the more I started hearing what Dr. Esther was saying, I'm like, this is the missing piece. This is what I need to be focusing on. I finally understood the root cause. Dr. Dieter just explained to me why the fiber, was like the thing that I was missing. And so I signed up. I didn't even have that extra leeway in my budget, but I'm like, you know what? I spent on so many other things, but this is for me, resetting the engine. And as I'm learning, I'm like, nothing's wrong with the engine, it's how I'm fueling it. So I was so sold. In 6 weeks, I was not even going to wait for my doctor's appointment. I checked my A1C, it had already started coming down. I've lost 13 pounds so far. My scrubs are falling, weird.
Oh,
There's one I need to
amazing.
get rid of. Just fitting better in clothes. The energy. I'm just being busy and on the go, like saying, not having energy for kids around the clock. I feel like I can really engage with them more, and I'm sharing this with everyone. My uncle is already off his insulin after 1 week of being on it. So it's not just my story, it's the kind of transformation I'm not going to keep quiet about and just share with friends. And this just reminded me why I'm in medicine in the first place. So I'm just helping people get better. And thank you so much. I thank God that I came across this and it's changed my life.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ruth, for sharing.
Yeah.
And, I know Ruth told me if it wasn't because as her friend, I was doing this and telling her that, it's real, she probably wouldn't have believed it. And so, that goes to the power of our stories. When you've done something and you're sharing it, you're not just talking out of, oh, I read somewhere or I heard somewhere. No, I'm doing it. And look at me. Let me show
Right.
you my transformation.
Yeah.
That there is power in that. So thank you for
Totally.
coming along, and I'm glad that it's working for you.
So Dr. Ruth, what I would like to do is just like Gavin, I'd like to shut off your camera here, but
Okay.
bring you back here in just a little bit. And as promised, I'm going to run a little bit long. We won't be too long, but there's just so many different things. You just mentioned a thinning of the hair, and I don't think you used those exact words, right? But and I did actually some research into androgenetic alopecia and the connection with insulin resistance, and there is absolutely a connection there. And I don't know why I know the word androgenetic alopecia. That's not something that I ever thought I would know was. The only reason I do know it is because guess what? I freaking got it. Pattern baldness, by the way. Androgenetic alopecia is a very fancy way to say pattern baldness. And you notice I
Male
say
pattern.
pattern. I did not say male or female pattern. Pattern
Yeah.
baldness. So, okay. So is that cool with you, Dr. Ruth, if I bring you back here in a few minutes?
Sounds
And
good.
I really got energized. And you know what, Dr. Esther, I tell you what, I'm very passionate about these products. I think everybody knows that. And I thought that as I was listening to you, it made me think about, okay, some of these other studies that are out there, and you mentioned chlorogenic acid, and you said Jim's going to go, it's what it was. You said Jim's going to go into more detail on that. And I was like, I'm gonna tonight. I'm gonna. And I don't do it very often because, you know, we're usually pressed for time, but we're going to go a little bit long tonight. So with that in mind, let's talk about chlorogenic acid. So what is chlorogenic acid? Chlorogenic acid it's called a polyphenol. It's a naturally occurring polyphenol. It's something that occurs in vegetation. We'll find it in various fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, teas, coffees, that sort of thing. In fact, it is most abundant in nature in a green coffee bean. Go figure, right? And so because of that, a lot of the research that's been done on chlorogenic acid revolves around coffee consumption. So with that in mind, I want to just point out this. Let's see. We're going to go to Google and just ask Google, does chlorogenic acid reverse insulin resistance? And Google's just their little AI says, yeah, sure does. Yep. Just like that. Okay. Now, go over to Google again and ask Google what foods have chlorogenic acid, fruits and vegetables. And so this really begs the question, do we have type 2 diabetes because we're metformin deficient, or do we have type 2 diabetes because we aren't eating the right foods? Now, digging into this a little bit, I want to point out this study right here. So this is called NIH PubMed, National Institutes for Health. This is an official website of the United States government. And this is what they call a systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized clinical trials. This is kind of like the holy grail of research, okay? And they looked at the effects of chlorogenic acid on blood pressure. Now, Dr. Esther mentioned earlier blood pressure. Well, this study right here looked at the effects of chlorogenic acid on blood pressure. And they concluded, in conclusion, the evidence from published randomized clinical trials suggests that chlorogenic acid intake causes statistically significant reductions in systolic and diastolic blood pressures. That is very, very compelling. Now, this study right here, chlorogenic acid improves glucose tolerance, lipids metabolism, inflammation, and microbiota composition in diabetic mice. So I just want to ask the question, the audience that's listening right now, how many of you have a problem with glucose tolerance? How many of you, just say me, if you have a problem with glucose tolerance. Say me if you have a problem with lipids, cholesterol. Inflammation. Type the word me if any of those apply to you. Now, this was a really, really interesting study because in this study, in the current study, diabetic mice were administered chlorogenic acid or metformin. One or the other, side-by-side comparison. The results showed that chlorogenic acid decreased body weight, so it aided in weight loss, and improved glucose tolerance and insulin resistance, so it helped reverse insulin resistance, and these effects were similar to those of metformin. And I just think that's a really, really powerful statement right there, and these effects were similar to those of metformin. Dr. Esther, that's a pretty powerful little statement, isn't it?
Yes, it is, because when you're equating something that is freely found in nature to a medication, then it tells you really what are we doing? Giving a medication that comes with all the side effects. And metformin is not a
Oh, no,
benign
no, no, no.
medication. No, it's not. It is not. And there's an
This
alternative.
is another study, and this is a review. It's roles of chlorogenic acid on regulating glucose and lipids metabolism. And we're just going to scroll down here. Chlorogenic acid is a novel insulin sensitizer that potentiates insulin action similar to the therapeutic action of metformin. There it is again. There it is again. And then finally, you mentioned GLP-1. This study right here, a chlorogenic acid-induced increase in GLP-1 production may mediate the impact of heavy coffee consumption on diabetes risk. And check this out. Indeed, there is recent evidence that coffee increases production of the incretin hormone, glucagon-like peptide 1, GLP-1. Now, to that point, I want to dive into this guy right here. This guy's name, Andrew Huberman. If you're into health-related podcasts, Andrew Huberman, I should say Dr. Andrew Huberman, has a podcast. It's called Huberman Lab. It's the #1 ranked health-related podcast in the world right now. Dr. Huberman's kind of a big deal. This is his profile on Stanford Medicine's website. I always like to point out his education because I'm kind of, I guess, I've never considered myself that smart. And so when I start reading these professional educations like this, look at that. I mean, his bachelor's from the University of Cal Santa Barbara, his master's from Cal Berkeley, his PhD from Cal Davis, and then his postdoctorate from Stanford. This guy is brilliant. And what he does, he's a neuroscientist. So he studies brains. He specializes in brains. Now, he was on Joe Rogan's podcast a little while ago. And on that podcast, he, I'm trying to get this thing to blow up for me here. On that podcast, let me see. Share this tab instead. We're going to go like this.
You were talking about people won't do the thing. Right now, there's a lot of excitement about semaglutide.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide. The story of that, since you like animals and the natural world, a guy down in South America was looking at Gila monsters, those really scary things, and he realized they don't have to eat very often. I wonder if they're hungry all the time or not. Turns out it takes their blood, isolates a peptide, which turns out to be GLP-1, puts it into other animals, and realizes it suppresses appetite. Amazing, right? Like this is what I love about biology. Some dude who studies Gila monsters. Turns out humans make GLP-1. GLP-1 is stimulated by things like yerba mate tea. Certain other compounds, plant compounds, stimulate its release. But what does it do in the hypothalamus? It suppresses hunger by way of, there's a particular brain arcuate pathway, blah, blah, blah. But it also affects the mechanosensors of the gut so that you feel like your gut's full. Like it's almost like you're getting like a pharmacologic tummy, stapled stomach, right? So when people take a drug that mimics GLP-1, their brain is like, well, I'm not as hungry, and their stomach feels full even though it's empty. And so people lose weight.
Check that out. Now, with that being said, what is Unimate, the first product that we're going to talk about? And Dr. Esther kind of was touching on it. Unicity Unimate. So what is Unimate? Unimate is what we call a yerba mate extract. And what that means is Unicity owns the farms in South America, the regions of South America that are Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay. And that really is the only place that the yerba leaf will grow. And so they own the farms there. They're not trying to grow this in Utah. They're trying to grow it where it is native. And they still use local farmers who are trained and skilled on when to hand harvest the leaves. They're not machine harvesting these. These are hand harvested leaves. And what they do is they fire roast it in a very similar way to the way that it's always been done, but then they stop the traditional process and they extract the really good things in it, like chlorogenic acid and theobromine. And then they concentrate those and purify it. They get rid of all the things that we don't want, the pesticides, the heavy metals, and that sort of thing. And what we end up with is a kind of a perfect version of yerba mate that has about 10 times the chlorogenic acid of a typical cup of coffee and 20 times the chlorogenic acid of a typical cup of yerba mate. So this is not like the yerba mate that you're finding in stores or the stuff that you're seeing in the TikTok shop. This is a completely different, perfect version of yerba mate. Now, if we're talking about research, because I do love the research, this study right here, published in October of 2023 by Dr. Ben Bickman. I guess I should build up who's that guy. We haven't really talked about him yet. Let me talk about him really quick. Let's just go over to Google and ask Google, who is Dr. Ben Bickman? Ben Bickman is a scientist, professor, and author focused on metabolic health with an emphasis on insulin resistance. He is a professor of cell biology and physiology at BYU and director of BYU Laboratories of Obesity and Metabolism. So basically, what Dr. Bickman does is he grows fat cells for a living. That's literally what he does. He grows fat cells for a living, and then he studies the fat cells. And guess what? He cannot grow a fat cell without insulin. You have to have insulin to grow it. And so because of that, Dr. Bickman pays particular emphasis on the etiology of insulin resistance. He even says it in his biology, pays particular emphasis on the etiology of insulin resistance. Now, Dr. Bickman, this study right here, this was published in October of 2023. This is PubMed Central, again, an official website of the United States government. It was peer-reviewed, and it was done on Unicity's Unimate. In fact, Dr. Bickman specifically named Unimate in here. Unicity's Mate, right there. Now, and I guess I should have highlighted his name in here. Now, what Dr. Bickman found in this research was that Unimate, it kind of made us a more efficient fat burner, says the guy who grows fat cells for a living. This study says that it makes you a more efficient fat burner. But what's interesting is what he observed alongside this study. And he went on a podcast and he was talking about what he observed while he was doing that study.
March in Las Vegas is that this yerba mate supplement called Unimate also increases GLP-1. We found in this experiment we did, the GLP-1 levels went up by about 70% in the fasted states, which is pretty considerable.
So a 70% increase in GLP-1 production when people were drinking that, or when they were using this tea. Those are crazy numbers. Okay. Now, that is the first product, Unimate. Now, Dr. Esther was talking about balance as well. So to understand balance, I want to talk about this little article that I found on PubMed Central, Closing America's Fiber Intake Gap. Now, in this article, they went on to say that 95% of Americans don't get their recommended daily intake of fiber. 95% of us, only 5% of us do. And that is a problem. Now, if you scroll down a little bit, they'll actually tell you how much you should get. 16.2 is what we are getting. These are what we should be getting. So if you are a male like I am, age 19 to 50, 38 grams is what I should be getting. The national average is 16.2. We've got a problem with the fiber. Now, what is balance? And this is the part where I was really kind of excited about this. So I'm going to turn my camera off. I'm going to turn, I guess, that screen share off. I got a new toy last week. Check that out.
Oh my gosh.
BIOS Life. This is a very, very old package of BIOS Life. You'll notice on the back, Rexall Pharmacy. Okay, this was made for Rexall Pharmacy. Now, what is
expiry date on that?
Oh, I don't know. I would not use it. It was made for Rexall Showcase. Some of you guys might remember Rexall Pharmacy from back in the day. That was the largest a pharmacy chain throughout North America at one point with 11,600 stores. Anyway, this is a very old version of BIOS Life. This was developed in the late 80s, 1989, as you can tell by the amazing graphics. Look at those graphics. That says, I think they printed this package in 1984 and then released it in 1989 because that looks more like Tron to me than. Okay, anyway, BIOS Life. Okay, you might hear me talk about BIOS Life or Balance. This is BIOS Life in South Korea. This is BIOS Life in Saudi Arabia. Now, in the United States, in the United Kingdom, we call it Balance. They are one and the same. Okay. Now, Balance is now sold in this handy little packet. It's nice to use into a bottle in 2 different flavors. But let's talk about BIOS Life and Balance. So what BIOS Life is, what Rexall Sundown developed in this little thing right here, they saw the overproduction of our food. They saw that we were ruining the food. They saw that we were stripping fiber and the vitamins and minerals. And what this was a blend of 7 different plant-based fibers and a multivitamin. So vitamin B6, C7, B7, B9, B12. It's a full B complex. That is directly tied to cognitive skills. Alzheimer's disease, they found B12 deficiencies like regular. It's also vitamin A, vitamin C, riboflavin, niacin. It's a chromium, zinc. It's a full multivitamin. And they paired it with these 7 different plant-based fibers. Now that thing right there, BIOS Life, kind of broke the book. It was like, hey, wait a minute, what is this thing? Now, I want to come over to here. I guess I got to turn that camera back on. I hope I'm not boring y'all. This study right here, fiber and multivitamin combination therapy. You'll notice it was published in September of 2002. Is it a beneficial influence on low-density lipoprotein and homocysteine, LDL cholesterol? Now, this is just the abstract, so if you wanted to read the research, you actually couldn't do it from PubMed. You would have to click this little link right here, and that will take you to the actual research, which is right here. This is Metabolism Journal, published September of 2002. So this is 23 years old now.
Yep.
This is what they call a double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized clinical trial. It was peer-reviewed, it was published, and it's been cited 20 times. And in fact, they used to show the citations here, and I can't seem to find them now, but on this actual thing, it said the number of times that it's been cited. So anyway, and again, you can't read the full thing here, but you can hit download full issue, and that will take you to here. That's what this is. You could also go to unicityscience.org, a much quicker path to finding this. unicityscience.org. Hit the research tab and it'll show you all the research. But this one right here was done by the Cleveland Clinic. You'll notice it was done at the Preventative Cardiology section of the Cleveland Clinic Foundation. Now, for those who don't know, the Cleveland Clinic is widely perceived to be the top heart hospital in North America, one of the finest institutions in the world. In fact, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Dr. Esther, but I would imagine that when you were in Kenya, you were familiar with the Cleveland Clinic.
Yep. I was.
Yep.
Yep.
So the fiber tested was BIOS Life 2 from Rexall Sundown, that exact package that I just showed right here. And the LDL response. How many people are listening right now that are concerned with their cholesterol, specifically the bad cholesterol, the LDL cholesterol? This study right here was done on it by the top heart hospital in the US. By the time of the interim visit, which was 4 weeks after randomization, the treatment group demonstrated significantly lower LDL-C than the placebo group. It worked. It lowered LDL significantly lower than the placebo group. And in fact, if you wanted to see what significantly lower looks like, just scroll down a little bit and you can see all of the values that the Cleveland came up with. Total cholesterol, triglycerides. It was absolutely amazing. So much so that the Cleveland Clinic concluded such a product, if taken regularly, could reduce cardiovascular risk on a population basis and potentially decrease the need and or dose for lipid-lowering prescription drugs. What that says is BIOS Life could reduce heart disease for everyone, and potentially decrease the need and or dose for statins.
Yeah.
Very, very, very compelling research from the top heart hospital, double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized clinical trial, peer-reviewed, published, cited 20 times. Now, the glycemic index, a lot of people aren't really familiar with the glycemic index, and that is sad, actually. This is from the Mayo Clinic. What is the glycemic index? And again, the Mayo Clinic, by the way, I'm pushing the accelerator. I'm trying to go fast. But again, you kind of inspired me, Dr. Esther. The glycemic index ranks food on a scale from 0 to 100. The low end of the scale has foods that have little effect on blood sugar levels. The high end of the scale has foods with a big effect. So foods that are low in the glycemic index really aren't going to cause a problem with your glucose. Foods that are high are gonna. And so they would go on to explain what are foods that are high. Foods that are high are white rice, white bread, and potatoes. Now, how often do we have those? All the time.
Really?
All the time. And then foods that are low, the ones that are not a problem. Green vegetables, most fruits, we don't have enough of those. If you go to Google and ask who is the home of the glycemic index, it will tell you the University of Sydney, Australia, which maintains the International Glycemic Index database and website. In fact, if you type glycemicindex.com into the webpage, it will take you right here. If you hit the about, it will talk about her. Now, her name is Professor Jenny Brand Miller. She's an internationally recognized authority on carbohydrates and the glycemic index with over 250 scientific publications. This study right here, the effects of BioSlife Slim on the glycemic and insulin index of 3 common starchy foods, you'll see her name right there. The University of Sydney, Australia, for Unicity International. The foods tested: white bread, white rice, mashed potatoes. In each case, it lowered the glycemic index from high to medium. It also lowered the insulin index. Those are absolutely amazing things. This thing actually works, as proven by the University of Sydney, Australia, Jenny Brand Miller herself. But she wasn't done. She studied it a second time. This time she gave test patients white bread and then measured their glucose and insulin responses after 1 or 2 servings of BioSlife. With 1 serving, it was a 20% reduction in blood glucose. With 2 servings, it was a 28%. Those are absolutely massive numbers, huge numbers. In fact, if you were to go to Google and just ask Google, how much does metformin lower your blood glucose by, it's going to tell you 25 to 30%. These are pretty amazing numbers. University of Sydney. If you went a little further, 13 to 27% reduction in blood insulin. So I hope I didn't bore anybody there. These are absolutely the right products. This is absolutely the right time. If you are stuck, if you're feeling sick, if you need a little bit of help, these products work. So how do we use them? You wake up and you drink your Unimate first thing in the morning. It's literally the first thing that I do. I don't know about you, Dr. Esther, but I can't function without my Unimate. I get up and I stumble into my kitchen. I get some hot water. I drink it out of a Yeti thermos like this, the tumbler mug, whatever, a 30 ounce. They're going to send you a diamond bottle. It's a little 16-ounce bottle. You can use that bottle if you'd like. I just like it in a little bit more water. And I drink it hot. You can drink it cold. You can drink it in more water, less water. The trick is to sip on it. Okay? Sip on your Unimate. When that Unimate is gone, I just drink my second one right away. Just go straight into it. What's going to happen if you have food noise, if you struggle with the food noise, it makes that go away, as Dr. Esther was talking about. It just kind of quiets the food noise. If anybody's tried to do the fasting thing and you find yourself just staring at the clock, like, oh my gosh,
That was me.
it's 9 a.m. I got to make it to noon. Like, it's just terrible. This gets rid of that. Okay. It makes it easier. It gets rid of the edge.
And on top of making it to 12 noon, if that's where you're trying to go, you also are not waiting to grab the nearest thing because you're not hungry. You have the luxury of actually picking the right food. Because many times what happens when you're hungry, you're just like, okay, what's there? The donut, the piece of candy and all that stuff. And then now you just messed everything up.
Oh, that's such an amazing observation. I never even thought about that before, but you're right. You're right, because you're not in a hurry to get something in your mouth. You can choose better.
Yep.
Okay, so then before your heaviest meal of the day, you take the balance and you mix it with, it's 300 milliliters is the actual number because I'm a dork. 300 milliliters of water. Shake it up briefly. Use cold water, not hot water. This time it's cold, and down the hatch. And I like to joke that pretend you're back in college at a frat party. Down the hatch, and then enjoy your meal. And that is it. That's it. Real quick, some flavors. Unimate is available in lemon ginger. This is like the lemon with a little snap of ginger. If you like a lot of snap of ginger, the Fierce will literally catch you on fire. It's hot. I love it.
My favorite.
It's my favorite too, but it's got a kick. It kicks like a mule. A seasonal flavor of
Apple
spice. We just released raspberry pomegranate, which is on the table behind me. I don't want to get up to get it. And then also, I mean, that's amazing, by the way. I don't know how you feel about that one.
I actually like it, but I like it. That's one I won't drink cold. I find it
carbonated cold. Try that. Put it in a soda maker and make it carbonated cold.
Okay.
Then just to tease everybody out there, everybody who's on the product, you see it? Can you read what it says?
Low caffeine.
Low caffeine. Low caffeine. Unicity has officially developed a system to reduce the caffeine. So if you are caffeine sensitive, there's a solution.
Yeah.
Okay, so wake up. That's what I've been drinking. I've been teasing it. I've been drinking it this entire live stream. I'm drinking it right now. Okay, it's not out just yet, but it's coming. It's packaged. It's there.
Yep.
On the website. Okay. The flavors for balance are right now there's orange and mixed berry. I think the orange tastes like an orange Julius or an orange sherbet. And the mixed berry tastes like a sweet tart, I think, something like that. Okay. The system costs $159 a month, which breaks down to a little over $5 a day. If you're doing the fasting properly, skipping breakfast covers the $5. It's a cost neutral thing. It doesn't really cost you anything at the end of the month.
You forgot the skipping snacks because you're not going to be hungry and
skipping snacks. Now, Unicity also accepts HSA, health savings account, flex spending account, credit cards. They will work with Klarna. There's all sorts of amazing things. They want you to try their product. The beauty of this system is if you try their product consistently for 90 days, give this thing, you heard Dr. Ruth say, I just wrapped up 90 days. That's a big deal. Get through 90 days, they guarantee your happiness. If you're not satisfied after 90 days, ask for a refund. They will give you all of your money back. If you want to order this system, get with the person who invited you to this live stream, and they can tell you how to order it. There's a referral system. They have a referral code. They'll get a discount when you order it. And guess what? You'll get a discount too if you refer it out. So that's the way this thing works. Okay. Dr. Esther, did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered it all.
Okay, we are long. I said we were going to be long. I'm sorry, but I'm telling you, I was motivated. I felt it tonight, and I wanted to get it all out, and so I did. But considering we're long, I'm going to ask anybody, if we have any questions for anybody in the panel here, please feel free to ask them while we're waiting for any questions to come up. Let's see. Elizabeth says 2 Unimate will have me awake for 4 days. Elizabeth, guess what?
No caffeine.
Okay. And I have about 5 Unimates a day. I love Unimate. Gavin, Mr. Turfler, buddy, there are a lot of people out there who are skeptical. They're hearing this. They're thinking this is bogus. I don't know why they would think it's bogus when I've got 2 doctors in here right now.
Right.
But there are a lot of people who are skeptical. It just seems too good to be true.
Mm-hmm.
30 seconds, Gavin. What do you say to that person?
I would say, like you said, give it a shot for 90 days. I was in college. Obviously, I had a little part-time job. I really couldn't. I didn't think I could fit it in the budget. But, what I was spending on breakfast, snacks, going to Sonic and getting a soda, all the things that that I did, I was able to fit it in and save that money at the end of the month. I used to spend probably $150 a week on groceries in college. I went on Sunday this week and I spent 65. Just like that, I'm saving a lot. And so that's what I say. Just give it a try for 90 days. We give you all the tools you need. You have unlimited support, unlimited coaching. We have a app that shows, helps you get your 3 packets in, helps you get your fasting hours in. It's very, very easy. Like I said earlier, if you can drink a drink, you can do it.
I forgot to mention the app. Thank you, Gavin. There is a field rate fasting app. When you start this, download that app. It's going to help you stay accountable. Will help you track your progress. An amazing tool. Dr. Ruth, same question to you. What would you say to this skeptic that's out there? And I'm going to ask you to take your doctor tag off for part of the answer, and then I'm going to ask you to put it back on for the second part of the answer.
Yeah, I would say I was willing to, just because of the pain, the pain points I had, I was like, I'm going to cut, some things from my budget, just to squeeze it in, because I was, having a relocation. But the thing is, we don't have the education that we need to have, your dermatologist, people wouldn't point out that the underlying issue is insulin resistance. So just give it a try. This is the one way to address root causes. And like Jim, you had said you were diabetic for a while. How much money did you spend those years? For this is a lifestyle change. This, like I'm just learning, food got us into the mess, food will get us out, and you can maintain your lifestyle, with more education and learning. So be a student of your health, be a student of what you're eating, how you're moving, how you're sleeping, and get on the bandwagon.
I'm going to ask, I've got an answer, but Olive here on YouTube asked the question, does the system help with autoimmune diseases? And so I've got 2 doctors here. I can give you practical. I'm going to tell you that I have had people who have ordered using MyLink who have done some things that were thought unbelievable, like reversed lupus. Okay. So I can tell you, what do we call that? That's observational, right?
Yes.
But doctors, to the doctors. What do you say to that?
I would say at the cellular level, if you heal your thyroid cell, your skin cell, your gut cell, like you say, anecdotally, people who have inflammation in the bowel, it goes away. I'm taking milk better now because I had lactose intolerance. It's, so as soon as your cells start healing, if the issue was compounded by inflammation or insulin resistance, it will start reversing that issue. So you may not know, you get fringe benefits. So try it, see if it helps. It's still anecdotal, but it works.
And I'll add to that, when we say that, 70% of your immunity resides in your gut. Your gut microbiome trains your body as to how to react to things that are coming from outside. And sometimes, autoimmune diseases, as the name says, is when the body is attacking itself. So if it hasn't been trained to identify things properly because the gut microbiome that was training it was faulty, then it has a faulty way of perceiving danger. So it perceives what is supposed to be healthy and good for you as dangerous, and it attacks it. It attacks what is supposed to be part of your body. And that's what autoimmune diseases are. So when you start retraining your gut, your immune system, by providing it with a healthy gut microbiome, then chances are downstream is that you're actually going to improve, because autoimmune disease does not happen just one time and then that's it. No, it's a continuous process. It's continually happening. You keep attacking your cells, you keep attacking your body. So the same way you keep attacking them, you can actually stop attacking them if now your body learns, oops, okay, I've been shooting at the wrong guy. That's not who I should be shooting at. It should be this other one. Or I have been putting too much force on this particular aspect, well, all I really need is to like swat them away and, you know, turn the grenade on the other side, you know, so you can retrain your, you know, your immune system. And, you know, some of the observational stories that we've had is people reducing how much medication they take, like for their thyroids. You know, they have Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune thyroiditis. They start taking this and they start getting side effects, but they think they're side effects, but really is now that the dosage of the levothyroxine they're taking is now too much because their body is actually beginning to work better. And now they need to reduce the dosage. So, yes, there is, we understand why that would happen because of how these products work. So, what I say is, you know, you can be here today struggling with it, or in 90 days, you could be here giving a different story. So, which is it going to be? A different story or more of the same?
I love it. Now, Michael, and I'm eyeballing, trust me, guys, I see the clock. I know we're at 90 minutes on a 60-minute live stream. I know we're long and we're going to wrap it up. Michael did bring this up, $19,700 per year to treat one diabetic. That is absolutely crazy, and it's actually proven. Give me a sec here, and I'm going to show you that. It's actually a real number. This study right here, Economic Cost of Diabetes in the United States in 2022, you noticed it was published January 1st of 2024, and Michael said $19,000. Here's the actual number. On average, people with diabetes incur annual medical expenditures of $19,736, of which $12,022 is attributable to diabetes. Now, this study right here, if you're thinking there's no way, that's just too big a number, you'll notice they say $412.9 billion. Well, that is the number that the Centers for Disease Control uses in theirs. So that's the study the Centers for Disease Control is using. That's a very real number. It costs you 20 grand a year to have diabetes.
Mm-hmm. And guess what? I just did some quick math. 159 times 12 for the 12 months is 1,908, a tenth of the 19,000. So literally with 10% of the cost, you can actually avoid not just diabetes, but a lot else. It's not just diabetes that you're going to be preventing, because we haven't talked about high blood pressure. We haven't talked about the effects of diabetes, the cancers, the acquired cancers that develop from that, heart disease, the surgeries that occur with amputations of legs. And I mean, the list is just, yeah.
19,730. And so we're trained to think that you know, this is expensive or eating healthy is expensive. I would argue that the diabetes, the sickness involved is what's, and in fact, boy, if we were to really go down the rabbit hole, you could connect insulin resistance to 7 of the top 10 causes of death in the United States. Boom. Think about that. It's a big problem. We've got a great solution. Try these products, 90 days. You've got nothing to lose, literally everything to gain. And the cool thing about this is we're seeing so many medical professionals like Dr. Esther, Dr. Ruth, Dr. Tiff, you know, just on this live stream alone, we've had Dr. Midgen Brown, who's an endocrinologist, Dr. Eric Aiken, who is a neurosurgeon. We've had Dr. Amanda Yu. She's a PharmD. She's a doctorate of pharmacy. We've had some amazing medical professionals out here talking about this. What are you waiting for? Try it. Ladies, gentlemen, I really appreciate your time. It looks like I'm not going to get in trouble. Looks like we're actually, Beverly says, thank you, Jim, for continuing the program this evening. Such great information. I'm glad you guys liked it. Olive says it was a great meeting. I appreciate that. I'm glad you guys aren't mad at me. I generally try and be respectful of 60 minutes, but there was just a lot of good happening tonight, and I didn't want to cut it off. So, Dr. Esther, Ruth, thank you very much. Gavin, I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Get with whoever referred you. Excuse me. Get with whoever referred you to this. Whoever showed this live stream to you, get with them. They will tell you how to order it. Okay. Give it 90 days. Go into it with a 90-day mindset. Think, I'm going to try something different. Okay. You guys have a wonderful evening. Dr. Tiff is back with me next week. And then we're into Thanksgiving. How'd that happen? November. How did this happen? You guys have a wonderful week.
Guess what? Before you turn off, Jim, I mean, guess what's good to have during the holiday season?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, then you don't have to compound everything that's wrong today with
Well,
all
what comes with Thanksgiving is the mashed potatoes, right?
the sweet potatoes,
Desserts, right? All of that
the
stuff.
pies and everything,
Pies,
and the
then
cookies.
we're like, hey, okay, that's over. Let's move into Christmas, right? We just keep that thing going. We just got out of Halloween. Like, this is the season of junk food, is what it is.
Yep.
So, give this thing a shot. There's no better time than now to start. You guys have a wonderful
Thank you so
week.
much for having
Thank
us.
you.